Hello students, this is Miss Anna. This is our last cup of tea together. So, go grab yourself some. I'll be right here when you get back. I don't know about you, but I think it's been a year. You guys have gotten a lot of work done and I've been very proud of how much you've grown in the past year. So let's quickly look at a partial pile of the books you've read. You have read an independent novel, you've read poetry, you've read lots of essays, you've read a creative nonfiction book like Band of Brothers. This isn't Band of Brothers, but kind of about the same height. You've read parts of Elements of Style by Strunk and White. You've read Hamlet. You've done some research into news sources. You have read The Importance of Being Earnest and A Modest Proposal, both about the same height. You've read A Christmas Carol. And you have read an autobiography. I feel like I'm missing pieces. So probably your pile of books should be up to here, at least, maybe a little bit taller. And then all the essays and so on and so forth you've written maybe come up to here. So let's say the work you've done has been up to there, plus discussion, plus morning messages, plus videos. You've done a lot of work this year. I have been very proud to see all of the growth you've done, to see you all grow as thinkers and writers and people. It's been very, very enjoyable. So the title of today's lecture is The Big Picture. Most of you right now are probably just thinking through exams and what you need to do to get through May, and oh my goodness, you know, what do I need to do to get to my first day of vacation? That's great. Don't lose that mindset. But I wanted to take this last few minutes with you all to kind of talk through the big picture of what I hope you've gotten from this course. Words matter. We spent quite a lot of time with Hamlet here, talking about spoken word and how it sounds and how that affects us as people. Somewhere along the way, words, fairly early in human history, words started to be recorded, to be written down for future generations. Language was considered worth saving. But at the end of the day, it is a production of our bodies and how we speak and how we hear. So I hope that you've had a chance to explore that, but also think through how language changes people. The Band of Brothers, which was an incredibly influential book, nonfiction book, bringing together interviews with lots of World War II veterans, opened up this door for more and more veterans to tell their stories. My great-granddad, my grandfather, who was at Pearl Harbor right after the bombing and was in the Pacific Theater during World War II, was very unwilling to talk about his experiences. They were very difficult. The one thing I really remember him talking about was how much blood was at Pearl Harbor. And I got him to talk about it once, and I have that recording of listening to him somewhere. But what Band of Brothers did with that focus on that part of history, and then with the huge film series, and then with, you know, veterans suddenly kind of overnight from that company becoming sort of movie stars, is it just opened up the door for more and more veterans to share their experiences with the next generation. When I think most of them kind of came home and were like, okay, we've fought our war, let's just be normal people now. Fair enough. But I'm so glad that the opportunity at least was given to them to tell their stories. And that wouldn't have happened without that one book, The Band of Brothers. Yes, so words matter. They impact people. Background matters. We've done a lot of research into different people that we've read throughout the year, different essayists, different authors. Charles Dickens is probably one of the best examples of someone whose background directly influenced how they presented material, but also the stories they chose to tell. And he, as you remember, had a very difficult childhood, didn't really have a breadwinner for a father. His father was in debtor's prison, which basically meant he was locked up till he could pay, but if you can't work, you can't pay. So Charles Dickens had an impoverished childhood, and throughout his adult life really had a focus on social issues and upon making the stories of the very poor an empathetic experience for other people to read about, just opening their eyes to how difficult life can be for other people. So So Christmas Carol was a novel that directly impacted the world and saved a holiday. That wouldn't have happened without Charles Dickens' background. Teach yourself. Now, this is something that's really great about homeschooling. You learn a lot about how you learn about making connections with other things that you're studying at the same time. But really, when you come to your next course, if there was something about this course that really worked for you, whether it was the videos, being able to hear as well as read, if it was perhaps the discussion element, think about that for your next course. If the teacher doesn't happen to offer that right off the bat, find a way to make that happen for you. Find a study buddy. Most teachers don't mind you recording, like tape recording them, talking during their lectures, and that's actually something I really encourage, especially if you're like me. It's good to hear it as well as read it. Measure growth. Now, this is something that teachers especially have the opportunity to do, but I would definitely encourage you to think that way as well. I know where all of you came in at the beginning of the year, and all of you have grown a lot this year. The people who put in lots of extra work tend to grow a lot more than those who, just kind of needed to do what they needed to do and then get on to their next subject. But all of you have grown. So and that to a teacher means so much more, really, than whether at the end of the course you get an A or an A+. I would so much rather see two grade level growth in a student than that final jump from A to A+, because that growth means a lot and you should be very proud of it. And so when you get frustrated or grumpy or sad or whatever in the future, just try to remember where you started out, and that'll encourage you. And just remember the teacher is seeing that as well. Okay. Keep growing though. Don't be lazy. Keep growing. Nobody pays you to throw up in a bucket. Alright. Now, this is something I realized a few years ago because of my acting background. I did not fully understand, because of the way America teaches acting, that it isn't enough to just sort of stir up emotion in yourself and then throw it up in a bucket. Nobody pays for that. No one's interested. People pay to see well done work. And that means that there's kind of for most people, a long arc of growth before you finally, are worth paying. And many of you experience this with your essay scores. I've gotten a couple emails throughout the year saying, what do I need to do to get that 9 out of 9 essay? And for some of you, getting to that point took a while. And yeah, it was frustrating. But you know what? That's kind of what it is. It takes a while to get to that top level of excellence. So be patient with the process. Remember how much you've grown. Good art doesn't happen by accident. One of you, and you know who you are, was talking to me today about art and what makes good art, and how do we know some art is good and some art is bad? And is that a moral thing, or how does that all work? And we didn't really come up with a comprehensive answer, because there isn't one. Art changes from era to era and time to time and culture to culture, but some things do stay true to each set of what is really excellent art. And one of those things that stays true no matter time or culture is that good art takes time to be able to make. Michelangelo did start out as Michelangelo. He started out as, a promising artist that took a while to become Michelangelo. In other words, Monet was once a bad Monet. Dickens was once kind of a bad Dickens. Shakespeare was once a, mediocre playwright. It takes a while to get to that point. It kind of goes back to nobody pays you to throw up in a bucket. Be the best you can be, because someday you will be the best at something. It all comes back to what you can do. Remember this as you look forward to university and more grades and more standardized testing. And at the end of the day, yes, your tests matter because they allow you to go to the next step. It proves a certain level of ability that you need to get to uni, or you need to get to grad school. So you need those test scores. But at the end of the day, you're going to meet this college president, and unless you're a very, very blessed human being, this college president isn't someone you've really chatted to before. And you're going to be up on this big stage, and the college president is going to read out your name and say, "Please step forward, Miss Anna Rebman," and you're going to walk across the stage, and you're going to shake this guy's hand, and you're going to smile. Someone's going to take your picture, and you're going to open up this little green foldy thing that should hold your diploma. And you're going to open this green foldy thing, and it won't actually have your diploma in it. And you're going to be like, this is interesting. And then at the end of the ceremony, this massive ceremony in a massive hall you've never been in your entire life, you'll go downstairs and you'll give them the green foldy thing, and they'll be like, "Okay, so you're Anna Rebman," and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm Anna Rebman. Here's my student ID." And they're like, "Okay, cool. Give us your gown." You give them your gown, and then they give you your piece of paper. The piece of paper that should have been in the green foldy thing to begin with, but they couldn't give it to you because then you might not give them back the gown that they need for next year's students. So all of that to say, at the end of the day, what you get is a piece of paper, right? But what really matters is what you can do. The piece of paper signifies what you can do. But the piece of paper is a piece of paper. It all comes back to what you can do. It's all connected. All of these people are trying to create an effect through words and imagery, but specifically primarily through words. Some of them use poetry, the form of poetry, some use the form of essays, some use plays. It doesn't really matter. They're all trying to reach out to people to have an effect either through appealing to the head, to the heart, or to the moral sensibility of the reader. And they are all dependent on the same literary devices, rhetorical strategies to get their point across. What really just changes, the only thing that changes, is the form. How the greater structure or the framework of the story or the point or the message or the theme is being presented. In other words, whether you are a computer scientist, the next Michelangelo, a really great refrigerator salesman, a farmer, a homeschool mom, a college teacher, an actress, a drinker of tea, a lover of cats, I think I'm missing quite a lot of the world, but no matter what function you fill in the world, hopefully you're having a positive impact on other people. You're using whatever background story you've been given to add to what you do. You're not letting something that's useful sort of wear away. So whatever talents you've been given, please continue to develop them. Please continue reading really great books. Please continue writing. All of you have grown a lot as writers, so I really hope you continue to use that. Guys, it's been a pleasure. It's been awesome. And I look forward to seeing where you go in the future.